So welcome to another episode of Menable Matters with me, Steve Whitten. Now, I'm really smiling at this episode because I have been longing to get this gentleman onto the podcast as a guest for some time. He is an absolute hero on LinkedIn. We've been connected for some time and we message each other occasionally and have some chats and bits and pieces. And one of the things, there is a warning that comes with this podcast. There it is. And that is that my guest today is the wonderful Luke Manton. And if you know Luke from LinkedIn, you will know that he is proud of the fact that he has Tourette's. I presume he's proud. We're going to come on to that in a minute. And which does mean that he says things and does things that may not fit comfortably with everyone. So if you're in any way, shape or form offended by language or the unpredictable, then I suggest you I suggest you leave. Don't listen now, because I'm probably going to join in as well. So without further ado, Luke, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. Welcome. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I am very well. Wow. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. So Luke, in good old fashioned Menable Matters style, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and where you're from, and then we'll crack straight on with a great conversation.
Yeah, of course. So fuck off. So I am Luke Manton. I'm 30 years old and the founder of Manton Executives. I'm based in Cheltenham, and my office is also based here as well. So I fuck off balls. Always comes out when I'm doing my intro bit. Yeah, so my company provide virtual personal assistance and marketing support to startups and various entrepreneurs. We've sort of fallen into a niche of working with the majority of neurodiverse people, because I think that's definitely the group that identify with me the most.
I can't for a minute wonder why that is. I must just say that before we started recording, you and I were having a proper laugh, weren't we? So it's not I'm not laughing at you at all. We're laughing together about this because actually, is that fair to say you're proud of your Tourette's?
Yeah, definitely. With the like whole laughter thing, I tell people fucking hell all the time that it's fine to laugh. I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm as surprised by what I say as everyone else. So if it's funny, laugh. Enjoy it.
Yeah, because what we actually said was that they, from a neurodiversity point of view, can imagine that there are employers out there who would be scared, right, at the thought of employing somebody who's going to, let's take an echoey cast at showroom, for example. You're going to be sat at one end, I'm sitting at the other end talking to a customer, and they've just spent a load of money with me, and you're shouting out bollocks and fuck off, this, that, and the other in the back. I think that's hilarious, but in front of a customer. Now, and the irony of it is, you go back to the back of the workshop or out into the car park, and there are people who work in that environment who are having conversations just like that all day long.
Yeah,
and yet we need to portray this kind of professional image. So have you found that over your years then of since you've had Tourette's that you're not a good mainstream employee sort of thing?
So yeah, so I once I was diagnosed with Tourette's, so the process of diagnosis is like a long one as well. So it's, you have to have it, this is between your appointments, you have to have 4 vocal tics and 5 physical tics every day for an entire year to be diagnosed with Tourette's. That's the ridiculous process.
Wow. That's
crazy. I know. Yeah. So before I was actually diagnosed with Tourette's and the tics had started, fucking hell, I was like invited to leave my last role, mainly because they thought I'd struggle with communication and things. But we all know, fuck off. But I think it was quite apparent that it was just because everybody wants equality and inclusivity until someone's telling your clients to fuck off and things like that.
Yeah.
after that, I found it next to impossible to get recruited anywhere. I was applying for jobs at every level, ones that I was like overqualified for, perfectly qualified for, underqualified for, everything, just anything I could, I was applying for, and I got, like, my CV and qualifications would get me in the door, and then they'd meet me. It would be a super short interview, and then always a no, always.
Yeah. They see, I find that sad because, I mean, I get it. I totally get it. But, you know, from what I've seen of you and our conversations and what you put on LinkedIn, you know, you're clearly a very smart, professional young man. And I know you look the part as well. So,
I try.
you know, well, and it really does. It is quite sad, isn't it? That, you know, as well, maybe, you know, as we go into these sort of more neurodiverse awareness sort of world that we're in now, maybe that will change a little bit, but
hopefully,
yeah, hopefully. Now there's another aspect that we want to discuss as well, and that is that you also recently appeared on a TV program with your fiance, your soon-to-be husband, George. Because obviously this series of Menable Matters is also to celebrate Pride Month, so perfect timing for that as well. But that got you a little bit of unpleasant kind of comments on LinkedIn, didn't it, for a little while?
It did. So to me, and it probably shows the, like, kind of, I don't know, almost like the privileged life that I have, because what I shared to me was just a nice picture of me and George, because on that particular episode, we basically redid our proposal, because George had already asked me to marry him, and then so we redid this proposal, and I just sang lead with a choir of 40, and it was the moment just after. Fucking hell, fuck off. And then, yeah, we just redid the proposal and then kissed on TV. And it was just a screenshot of that minute. And to me, I was sharing something I thought was really cute. And it was like kind of such a huge part of the whole journey and the whole show. And I shared it probably without even giving a second thought to anyone pulling that kind of thing apart. But little did I know that it seemed at the time there was like hundreds of like good comments. Like the post went viral, and I had hundreds of comments. But then just like one, I remember reading the first like negative one, and I just remember thinking, "Oh, fuck off!" I remember thinking, "Oh, what a bit of a tit this person is." But then it was just one after the other, and it just kind of snowballed. And as the post got bigger, fucking hell, that kind of abuse got more and more. But then it went to different stages, like people were then not wanting to comment on LinkedIn, so they'd find my Instagram or they'd find my Facebook. And for me, both of these those platforms are like private, but I can still see a message request. And then once I'd kind of turned off that feature, I was then getting like website submissions through my website of just complete abuse. And that probably went on for about like 3 or 4 days, like solidly. I think through my website alone, I had over 150 messages of just abuse. And I just completely didn't get it.
No, I mean, I saw a couple of comments, and I've got to say, I sort of scrolled through, and I would temper it by saying that for every negative comment, there seemed to be a good 30 or 40 good positive ones.
For sure.
But obviously you can't help, you know, human nature. You look at the negative ones, and there were 1 or 2 on there, I've got to be honest, Luke, actually made me cry. Because I thought
they were foul, some of those comments.
well, God knows what it must have made you do, because I was livid at one point, and I thought there was one I read, I thought, you're just lucky you're not stood in front of me, but you know, now with this, because but there was others that made me cry. So it must have been horrendous to read that stuff.
It was awful. Like weirdly, typically me, I was with George and I was shopping in a garden centre when the things started like popping up, and I just read one by chance on like a notification, and I kind of kept checking it, and then George was like, "Oh, just delete the app from your phone and we'll deal with it when we get back. So I did. And then, yeah, I genuinely wasn't expecting it. And it was a shitty thing to like have to deal with. And it did make me feel like absolutely awful. And like you said, there were so many nice comments on there, and I've had shitty comments on fucking hell, balls, fuck off on videos before, because I don't think you get to post videos and be like me without having any shit for something. So I'd had shitty comments before and it never really bothered me, but I think this was just the sheer amount of it, and like the contents of what these messages were saying. I think the worst one, and in the end it had to be like a police issue, like they had to be reported because there's so many. That someone sent me a video, oh fucking hell, sent just a short video. It's actually posted as a story and they sent it to me through Instagram. They'd obviously looked up my company online, and my registered company address is not where I live, so it's not my home address. But fucking hell. So like it was actually my old accountancy practice, so I hadn't updated it at all. So that one's probably a good thing. But this whole story post in this video is him inputting that address onto a sat nav in his car, pressing search, and then putting a hammer on his passenger seat and saying, "Oh, time to go and kill the faggots." And then that was literally it. But that was the extent of the things I was getting. But like I said, I completely did not expect it. To me, it was just fucking hell, a nice picture, a nice moment with me and George. That was it.
So what was, I mean, I think at one point you even made the comment that people were kind of completely missing the point, that actually a big part of it was about you as a guy with Tourette's managing to sing bloody lead in a choir, for Christ's sake.
That was what
that was the point of yeah. So these complete, I'm going to say it in your terms and motor trade terms, these complete absolute idiots miss the point. And focused in on the fact that you're a gay man. I mean, what is wrong with them?
It was absolutely like baffling. And for me to see people at like director level, and it was mostly men, but there were quite a few women as well. Now, all in like high level jobs, just the willingness to comment publicly abuse to me. Like, I just thought everybody in your network can see this. Your job title is on display, your picture is on display, your name, and you are happy to be seen just spouting all this absolute bollocks like on LinkedIn. My PA actually went through quite a few of the negative comments and like found the found the HR manager of the person that was commenting and just tagged the HR manager and the company in the comments.
Yeah, good.
And at first I was like, oh, don't worry about it, we'll just forget about it. And then like to be fair, she did rightly say like, fucking hell, piss off, bollocks. It's just not an acceptable thing to do. And she was like, I'm pretty sure if we had someone on our team that was just being an asshole to somebody online for no reason in this kind of context, she was like, you would want to know about it. And I thought, well, yeah, that's true. To be fair, I would.
Yeah. Were most of these comments coming from people in the UK? Because I mean, some of the ones I saw were from, you know, what you might class as countries that aren't quite there yet, and that's me being polite.
Yeah, so there were quite a few from the UK. I had quite a lot from like India as well. But then funnily enough, I do work with one of my clients who does a lot of training for a pharmaceutical company, and a lot of their employees are Indian, and they know me and we get on well. We speak about my life and Tourette's and things during these, and they're all fine. So a lot of people said to me, oh yeah, I think it's like a cultural thing. But I can't like 100% agree, because I work with such big groups of people who are part of that culture that still aren't a knob. Like, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, I'd probably say 95% of the women that commented abuse were like from the UK, and then probably about like 65% of the men.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that just goes to show we've still got a long way to go on this whole neurodiversity thing, as well as acceptance of
Yeah,
different genders, different sexualities and stuff.
yeah,
And just on
sure.
that front, I mean, it just made me think. You were saying about it comes from the UK. I've got a theory that 20% of men are gay and 78% of men are curious.
Yeah, pretty much.
And from the conversation you and I were having before we started recording, I think that's fairly that's fairly accurate. And most of those men that are curious are married. As I was whilst curious. So my message to them would be, and this is me being really firm on my own podcast, I've not done this before, but this is me saying to them, if you're in that category, rather than reach out and be horrible, just grow up, you idiot, because it's not, it's not nice, and it's not kind, and we don't live in that world anymore. And let's just all accept each other for who we are.
Yeah, there's not a place for that kind of like shit anymore. And I just think and I know everybody's like, oh yeah, the world's becoming too woke, or it's this or it's that. I genuinely don't think it's that in the slightest. I think people are just learning that what other people do has zero impact on 100%. Them. Like, how is me marrying George impacting like some bloody director of a glazing company in Hull? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what?
That's narrowed it down a bit.
Yeah. Like, what is this doing to them, like individually? Like, it makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. I just don't. Fucking hell, don't get it.
No, and I tell you what, there's another feature that you have on LinkedIn, that if you see something like that, and when we publish this podcast, if there's anything on there that you don't like, here's a clue: scroll past.
Yeah. It really is that simple.
Yeah. No one, let people share what they want, and no one's interested in your negative views and what have you. But I do honestly believe, though, Luke, as well, that we are doing a lot of work around diversity and inclusion, and that includes everything. But we're not quite there yet, because we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
And when we stop talking about it, that's when we know that actually we're just accepting that actually I'm not looking at you as a young gay man with Tourette's. I'm just looking at Luke, and you're a person the same as everyone else. Did you see what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And we're not quite there yet. Back to the Tourette's for a second. When were you diagnosed with that? And how did it build up? Because it must have been, as you said, in that process of taking a year to get a diagnosis, it must have been challenging.
So I think I finally got my diagnosis at 26. So I was completely fine the one day. Started having like headaches and nosebleeds and things. Fuck you. And then it turns out it was like swelling in my brain. There was like a growth there that had been there for longer than any of us had known. I had a few seizures, and just the remainder was that it had caused damage to my brain afterwards, and it came from that. After the final seizure, which was almost like the main trigger for it. Fucking hell. I couldn't talk. Like, I could barely get a single word out. So I had speech therapy for, God, months and months. I've only saying that I've only actually just finished the whole like online thing as well. And I learned to talk again. They didn't think I would, but I was absolutely not gonna spend a whole life not saying anything, considering I just talk constantly, usually anyway. I'm one of those people.
Now you've got a social media presence that can't live without you.
Yeah. That just relies on the words I say. But when I learned to talk, I had a stammer. I had all the physical tics right from the start, so I could never keep my head still. But no vocal tics, and fuck off balls. Yeah, and then once I'd like kind of learned to talk again, then the vocal tics came out. But the weirdest thing was that I learning to talk, I stammered on every single word, and that was so frustrating. But then when I tipped, there was no stammer or anything like that. It was like the only things I could say click clearly. But it's just kind of gone from there, and it develops and it changes and goes through like different phases.
Have they worked out that there's what is going on in the brain to cause this to happen? I mean, I know you said you had a growth and then, you know, whatever, but what's going on now then that's causing it?
Well, now apparently it's completely fine. But people don't realize that Tourette's not only can be triggered by something physical, like with me, it can be something mental as well. Like I know someone who was diagnosed with Tourette's at 27. Fucking hell. And that was because someone had broke into her house and she was there and woke up and found him there, and there was a bit of a struggle before he left, but that caused so much damage mentally that
trauma,
it had triggered the like ticks, and
wow, never realized
that's it. It's Tourette's. So
yeah,
it's just weird, and it can happen at any age and at any point.
Well, I, for one, certainly hope that, you know, I mean, obviously at the beginning of this, we said, you know, pretty much anything is going to be allowed and said on this particular podcast. And then we talked about the issues you had around, you know, sexuality and stuff. And, you know, from listening to that, I mean, even me, and I know you reasonably well, I've had a bit of a paradigm shift now, listening to where this has come from. You think, oh my God, you know, I mean, to think, you know, one of the questions I asked you was about becoming a mainstream employee. And I mean, you know, unless you're going to go for a job as a sniper in the army, I can't think that that might be a bit limiting, but that, you know, I can't think that from what I know of you, that there's many things that you wouldn't be able to do.
I tried saying this, and I would give my full like sales pitch in a job interview about how I'm still capable of doing everything I've done before, for how my qualifications still stand. Like this might have happened, but I'm still like, I'm not a stupid person. Like, do you know what I mean? I didn't suddenly forget everything that I'd learned over like my years of working and everything. But I don't know if people are like embarrassed or they just don't know enough. But yeah, it's just odd. And I've kind of had this weird perspective, because I've got to see, fucking hell, I've got to see what life was like before Tourette's, when I was technically just normal like everybody else, and then what Tourette's was like after. And I am fully aware of how different people treat me now. It's like a world away from how they used to treat me. Even picking up my office keys, for example, when I signed for my new office, we were picking the keys up from somebody different, and I got out the car, but the guy was just talking to George, and he could see me like ticking and whistling, and he was like, "Oh, so what are you doing here?" First he was like, "Oh, are you Luke?" And he was like, "No," and I was like, "Oh, that's me." And but then he still was asking George the questions, and he's like, "Oh, to George, if you want to write down what the meter reading is." So I just said to him, I was like, "Look, it's me that's paying for it. It's me that's paid for it so far, and like it's my company." But it's just little things like that, and I don't know if people just don't want to talk to me, or they don't know what to say, or they think they have to act different. It's just an odd one, but I definitely notice a difference.
So if it's a case of people don't know what to say, or they don't know how to behave, you know, around you, they're not sure. I mean, what could we do? What could you say that would help people with that?
Well, for me, like the most comfortable experiences I have with people I don't know are people that literally just treat me like a person. They don't have to treat me like anything else is wrong, anything's different. Just exactly the same as everyone else. I wrote a post about this, I think, last year, because I bought a new car. And George had let them know in the garage before that I had Tourette's by email. And then when I got in there, it was one of the first times just no one batted an eyelid, and I was just treated exactly the same as everyone else. And it made the biggest difference.
Oh, wow. That's good to hear.
And like, I could just relax and actually not feel like I'm being a nuisance or causing a scene.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I mean, that's lovely to hear, because obviously majority of our audience is the automotive industry. And to know that you got that level of acceptance in a dealership was great. There is a part of me that thinks actually in the nicest possible way, they would have found you refreshing and
Mm-hmm.
amusing at the same time, because actually, although yours is Tourette's related, you're talking in the way that people in that business probably talk most of the time when there aren't customers around. And I'll probably get letters of distress and everything from that as well. But I've worked every dealership I've ever worked in, as soon as customers are out of the way, then the language is quite interesting.
I can imagine.
Well, it's that kind of environment. It's masculine environment, isn't it? And that's
yeah,
and that's got nothing to do with it being more men either, as well, because some of the women I've known have been sort of shocking. So tell us a little bit about the business that you founded, because this is inspirational itself, because I think you said to me before we started recording that obviously you struggled to get jobs as an employee, so somebody made a suggestion and you started a business, and now you're really successful. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was saying before, like I was helping a friend out with their social media and their emails when I couldn't get hired, just because I think at the time they kind of just wanted to give me something to do, because I was moaning so much about how no one would hire me. And I was so used to being on the go constantly that when you suddenly have nothing to do, like, it was absolutely mind-numbing. And I'd always done marketing kind of things anyway, and like all of my jobs had such like a heavy like admin element to it. Fucking hell. So doing this kind of thing was like second nature. So when they fuck off bollocks shitballs, when they suggested that I charged for it, I remember thinking, I suppose that is a way I could work without anybody having to see me or speak to me or work in the same place as me. So I came up with the idea for this company, and originally the branding was like grey and sage green, and I couldn't have made the website look more corporate if I tried. There was no picture of me, there was no videos, anything like that. And it was difficult initially, and I was trying to be this like fake perfect person. And then by chance I got to know a few people on LinkedIn, and I don't know if I'm sure you've seen Leah Turner on there, but she convinced me to make a video for LinkedIn, and she was like, people want to see the real you, they want to work with the real you. She was like, when you're ready, do it. So fuck off balls. My first video was 1 minute and 4 seconds long, and people didn't actually realize as well at the time that that was the first time I'd ever seen a recording of myself since I had Tourette's as well. So it was odd to like watch back. But yeah, as soon as I posted that, everything just went absolutely like nuts. People were so supportive, and weirdly then everybody wanted to work with me or like see what I could do. So I've been fully booked since then, had a rebrand and got rid of that awful corporate image. So now everything's pretty much bright pink, and that's how it's going. Yeah. So that's how it was today. And now
these videos you're talking about, was that the Ticked Off series that you did?
Yeah. Which is coming back as an exclusive.
Good. Heard it here first, ladies and gents.
Yeah. I've now got an office and a huge client list, and we have like influencers and like business owners and things that want to work with us, and it's been crazy. We've just hired another person and handed out another office, so that's 2 more for the team, but it still doesn't seem real to me. Like, I think considering what I wanted this to be initially, and like my goal, my neurologist at the time told me, it'd be too difficult to start a business, too difficult to get a job, just claim these benefits, and gave me a list. Fucking hell. The list totaled, I still remember, it was £980. And I thought, as long as I can make more than £980 in a business, like I'm doing something right. And yeah, I just didn't expect it to get to this point. So considering that was my goal, I think I've done pretty well. And from the outside, I think it seems like I've got my shit together, but I still, fucking hell, bollocks, still don't have a clue what I'm doing. I'm just winging it most of the time. So Just see if just hope it turns out right.
Well, I think you're actually in the good company, because I think the vast majority of us are, and you're probably
Definitely.
the first person I've spoken to for a long time who's been honest about that.
Yeah.
So, and you said something earlier about, I think you made a comment about not being normal, and I was going to say to you at the time, what do you mean normal? Like the rest of us, with stress, anxiety, depression,
Yeah, very much.
PTSD, imposter syndrome, curious about our sexuality, in debt, addictive behaviors, Oh yeah. So yeah, which one of all of those is normal?
Which one's not? You're right.
You have let me down though, because I was expecting at least one cashier number 4, please.
Oh, you see, weirdly, that one, I actually can't do that perfect impression unless it's a tick. And someone mentioned this the other day, actually, during an interview that they were having with me. And they were like, oh, I really like that tick. And I thought if I thought about it more, it would happen, but it hasn't yet. So
all right. So
well,
that leads me nicely on then to, are you learning or finding ways to control this now, or?
So I still can't control the ticks. You can probably hold them in to an extent, but it's almost like keeping your eyes open and trying not to blink. That's what holding it in is like, or trying not to sneeze. Like, it's going to happen the minute you stop thinking about it. So back off. Singing in the show, singing works not to tick, but if there's a gap in between the lyrics, it'll be a tick, like a tick or fit filler.
Yeah.
But I think now I'm just so used to it. Like now I still tick, I still whistle, I still say things, I still move while I'm falling asleep. And whereas before it used to stop me sleeping completely, because how would you sleep when you're moving and talking?
Right.
But now I'm so used to it that it's just normal now.
Yeah. And is it painful or uncomfortable or at all, or tiring even?
Yeah. To all of them, to be fair.
Right.
Like, so ticks to like certain degrees, you can get bigger ones, smaller ones. Like my neck by the end of the day aches, and I have dislocated my left shoulder 4 times and my right shoulder 7 times, just from a tick of swinging my arm out. And I suppose it just makes the joints loose, so now it's just easier to happen. But I don't think you can really see it on the screen, but I've got a scar from there to there, which was from a tick. So I ticked and I headbutted the sink. I was like leaning down in the bathroom and then ticked at that exact moment.
I can see it now. You pointed it out. Yeah, that's that must have bled
a lot. But things like that happen, and it's just part of it. But it's like you just get used to it. Like I used to enjoy cooking, and I suppose I still do, but I can't cook with, like, if I'm on my own or anything like that. And when I am cooking, George watches me like a bloody hawk, and I still have to use like toddler cutlery pretty much. Like, I can't hold a sharp knife even in our drawers, right?
Is that because you'll end up like accidentally, well, not, one of your ticks will be to fling it across the room or something? Is that?
Yeah. And I've actually, once we were in a restaurant and I stabbed a fork into my arm, like my own arm, and I never know it's coming, so I'm like equally as surprised as everyone else. But yeah, even in our drawers, like the knives are in like an attached holder thing, so the blades aren't like accessible, so I can't tick and like hit them or something like that. But you just kind of get used to it. You get like, you just adapt to everything. Like, all of our glasses are from a company called Pool Safe, so it looks like an actual glass, but it's actually plastic, so I can't. So you just work around things, I suppose.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned about buying a new car. I mean, how does this affect you driving then?
Oh, fucking hell. So funnily enough, it weirdly almost works the same as singing. So I'll always have my music loud. I'll always sing when I'm in the car, and that's kind of enough between that and the focus of driving. I can't drive for any longer than 15 minutes at one time. And we did try the other day, because I wanted to buy a new car. I wanted to upgrade, but I tried to drive an automatic, and I had to just get out and switch with George, because not having that focus of doing gear changing was weirdly like almost like just an open door for tics, which I'd never had before while I was driving. Wow. But because I didn't have that to focus on while singing at the same time, it was almost like, oh, well, let's try and pull the steering wheel around, or we'll fling the door open, or something like that. So yeah, so I can't drive for any more than 15 minutes.
And what if you ever got into a little bit of road rage with someone at the traffic lights or a roundabout or something, and you know, they come up to you and then you let rip? I mean, does that
they deserve it probably, because
well, more than likely, yeah,
I'd be in the right.
Well, let's add sassy to the list as well then, Luke. Brilliant. Oh, cool. Good.
Backing out, balls. It's all fun and games. It's just it's actually weird talking about it like this. I think to me it's so normal now. It's just like daily life.
Well, I was going to say a little while ago, you said about the you know, the cutlery and that, and I went, oh wow, and that was me really going, oh wow, yeah, actually, you don't, stuff that you just don't think of, you know, that people that don't have you know, these things going on are not aware of. So so yeah, so if anything, you know, you've helped us to sort of raise this as a part of the awareness of what we're doing as well. So thank you very much for that. Now, you mentioned your business, and I know that might well be people listening to this who may want to get in contact with you. So how can they do that? What's the best way to reach you?
So LinkedIn is number one, or the website, which is www.mantonexecutives.com. And there's a form submission on there, as well as everything we do is on the website. And a picture of me and my adorable dogs is also on there. So there's that.
No picture of you kissing George?
No, I didn't want to fuel that fire anymore.
No, I'm with you on that one. Yeah, no, I'm yeah, just cool. And has that all eased off now? Have they all stopped? Have you managed to?
Yeah, I think they probably moved on to the next person.
Moved on, yeah.
That's I suppose the plus side with anything social media wise. You're only the most hated person until somebody else is, and the internet's going to provide. So.
What a lovely
There's always going to be someone new.
Yeah, no, indeed. No. So Luke, thank you so much. It's been my absolute pleasure to talk to you on Menable Matters. It's been something I've been wanting to do for some time, because you genuinely are a LinkedIn star. I think, as you've gathered from your post, there are a lot of people out there who love you to bits. And even though we haven't met, I'd count myself in that category as well, because you are brilliant and an inspiration to a lot of people. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And yeah, thanks ever so much for appearing on Menable Matters.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.